Okay, I'm going to try to break this down for you pretty quickly on what dependence is and the different types of dependency. So, I find that dependency is demonized by someone who has an avoidant attachment because it is their fear. Being dependent on another person scares the living crap out of them and makes them feel vulnerable because if I am dependent on you, then I can be disappointed by you. I should have as little expectation of another person as possible and depend on people as little as possible. And they tend to have this concept that if you do depend on other people, hence the person who is anxious, then you're weak and you're vulnerable. And someone's going to end up just crushing you, and that's on you. So I think of dependency on a spectrum, and I think that there are hyper independent people who have high avoidance. They want to be extremely independent. They value their sense of self. And anytime that someone is going to come in and have an impact on their ability to stay totally independent, they start freaking out. Then you have a normal, healthy amount of dependency, and I consider this to be our interdependence. I depend on my partner for appropriate things that I should be able to depend on another person for, and I'm able to fulfill some of my own needs on my own because I'm a functioning adult who is capable of noticing that there are needs that I have that are my responsibility and no one else's. I also realize that I can't get all of my needs met by my partner. I need to go out and I need to have a network of people who I also feel safe with, and we have an interdependence. It looks a little different, obviously, because these are friendships and family, but I go out and I have needs fulfilled in those relationships outside of my partnership because this can't be the only person who I have interdependence with. And then I really don't like the stigma behind this term, but there is codependency, which tends to be what we label an anxiously attached person. And codependency was actually developed, the concept was developed by researchers who were looking at people who stayed in really unhealthy relationships, specifically relationships with an alcoholic or some type of an addict. And so with codependency, this person feels like they are totally dependent on the people within their lives. Sometimes they feel very dependent upon one person in their life to fulfill the majority of their needs. They tend to have trouble with fulfilling any of their own needs, and they tend to use a lot of protest behaviors to force people to give them their needs and have them met. So that's kind of the spectrum that people live on. What I will tell you is I work really hard whenever I'm working with someone who has more of an anxious attachment to help that person focus in on the things that are their responsibility and the things that they can expect of other people. And I then also work with people who have an avoidant attachment, and we look at the fact that it is healthy and necessary for thriving relationships that you learn to let down that sense of hyper independence so that you can allow someone else in and you can allow someone else to be a part of your life in a healthy way. So I hope that that was helpful. If you would like any more information on this, please be sure to leave me some comments and I would be happy to answer more questions for you.